The topic of today's webinar video discussion is healthy fats. So you may be wondering, why is the cast of Alone on the cover of this webinar? Well, because as we go through this, you're going to see that fats are super important if we are ever on a survival show or stranded in the wilderness for any reason. And as we go through, you'll see there's two reasons that's super important. But for right now, just know that it's all going to come together by the end of this little discussion. So if you have watched any of the episodes of Alone, you may have heard them, or you likely have heard them say things like, I need to find some omegas, I need to catch some fish, I need to eat some fish eyes sometimes. But this is a common theme for them. And the reason is that dietary fat is a quick source of energy, and it's a good energy source when carbs are not around. Okay, so that's why things like the ketogenic diet is effective for some people for a period of time, not long term. But the dietary fats do provide us a quick source of energy, and it's a source of energy that our body likes to store. So as we know, our body stores energy as fat and then breaks it down as we start to deplete our energy sources. So that's why on survival shows, you will see them looking for fish, you will see them trying to find seaweed or algae, and you will see them constantly talking about needing some omegas. And we'll get to the omegas more in a minute too, but that's one of the main reasons that fats can save your life. So they also insulate our body. Another reason they're looking at those on shows like that is to keep yourself insulated. They protect our organs. They help make and balance our hormones. Super important for cell membranes and cell growth. They are a big portion of our brain and nervous systems. They transport our fat-soluble vitamins to parts of our body that need them. Those are A, D, E, and K, which we will talk more about in the micronutrients section, which we'll get to soon. And we can't make our own. We can't make our own fats, or two of the fatty acids that are super important for our body functions, omega-3 and omega-6. We don't make them on our own, so we need to get them from food sources. So sources of dietary fats, you'll see that as with fats and the other macronutrients we have talked about, a common theme of mine is that we need to get the bulk of these foods from natural sources. So we thrive best on a mix of different fat types that come from natural sources. And what we want to really do is try to get most of our calorie intake for these macronutrients, this one no exception here, from natural sources. And those include nuts and seeds, avocados, dairy, eggs, fatty fish, beef, pork, and lamb, poultry, wild game, olive and olive oil, and fresh coconut. When we're talking about fats from the poultry, you're probably saying, well, wait a minute, I thought poultry was the lean protein that we're supposed to eat. It is, but other parts of the poultry, so the darker meat and things like the chicken thighs, are going to be higher in fat, and they are a natural fat source. So saturated fats are fats that are semi-solid at room temperature and then melt to a liquid form. So those include eggs, dairy, coconut, cacao or chocolate, beef, pork, and lamb, the fats that are within those meat sources. We're not going to worry too much about the hydrogen atoms. Just know that if you're a chemistry person, it is hydrogen that makes the difference between saturated and unsaturated fats. But for normal people who don't chemistry, like me, it's what we really need to think about, or how we can distinguish the fats, is if they are solid at room temperature or if they're in liquid form at room temperature. So again, our saturated fats are going to be our animal fats and tropical oils, like coconut oils and avocado oil. So those are, as we talked about, they're solid at room temperature. but they can melt. So mono unsaturated fats and poly unsaturated fats, those are already liquid at room temperature. They are going to be the oils, right? So the oils that we cook with, the oils that restaurants cook with, the oils that make our food taste so delicious, right, are mostly going to be some form of unsaturated fat. Are unsaturated fats or saturated fats, quote unquote, bad for us or unhealthy for us? They can be, and if you consume too many of them. So the issue is going to be heart disease, but also various forms of cancer. The issue really, though, is that we can't predict a food's disease risk by the amount of fats that is within it, because fat is a very complex macronutrient, because fat by itself in the right portion, and we'll get to the portion, but if you'll recall, we've talked about this a lot, that this one is very, very nutrient dense. Fat is very calorie dense, it's a very, very dense nutrient. So a little bit goes a very, very long way. So when you are over consuming them, then yes, it's going to lead to health problems, just like over consuming anything is going to lead to health problems. There are also certain kinds of fats that do increase inflammation in our bodies and do affect our metabolism and hormonal balance. Again, you're going to experience those if you are consuming way, way, way too many of the fats. If you are looking at trying to get them from the natural sources like we've talked about and not using them so much or consuming them so much in other foods or in processed foods, then you're going to most likely be okay. Your health effects that come from eating fats are going to be health effects that come from eating too much generally. So the studies are inconclusive, so you do want to be careful, but you want to be careful with fats anyway, because they are so calorie dense. And like I've said 1,000 times, a little bit goes a very long way. You just don't need too much fat in your body or in your daily diet. So that is why they kind of get a bad rap in terms of our associating them with heart disease, or having the connotation that if we eat too many fats, they're just going to clog our arteries and hurt our hearts. So fats are also important for our diet because they contain fatty acids that we cannot produce on our own. These include the omega-3 fatty acids and the omega-6 fatty acids. And again, there's a lot of science here, some chemistry. We're not going to over worry that. But we do want to look for, when we're looking at omega-3 fatty acids, we are going to look for ones that are high in sources of EPA and DHA. So those are found in marine sources, such as the fatty cold water fish and algae. So that's why you're seeing, if you watch the show, I'm telling you, if you watch the show alone or any of those types of survival shows, you will hear the contestants and you will hear the commentators talking about getting their omegas, finding a source of omega, finding fish so that they can get their omegas. So that's why. And fish, they're important because they're anti-inflammatories. So our bodies need them in a pretty regular supply so that we are able to naturally have the anti-inflammatory properties that benefit our body. So things like dilating our blood vessels to improve our blood flow, lower inflammation, prevent coagulation and clumping of blood, so blood clots, right? Decrease pain, dilate our airways, and support our immune systems. So the omega-3s are super important, and we'll talk in a minute about supplements if we hate fish and eating algae. So the omega-6 fatty acids do the opposite. They are pro-inflammatory, and our first instinct is to go, pro-inflammatory, we don't want that. Well, we actually do want a certain amount of that in our bodies. We do sometimes need inflammation when we're injured or when we're sick. We do need sometimes to have our blood clot. We do need to feel pain sometimes. so that we can get ourselves what we need to take care of ourselves and fight off disease and heal from our injuries and things like that. So omega-6s are important as well. They're just not as important as the omega-3s. And the key is going to be the balance between the two. So how do we balance our omega-3 to omega-6 ratio? Again, if we eat fewer industrially processed and refined foods and fats, we are going to have a natural balance of those. If we eat in a natural way, if we eat a variety of whole foods and a variety of fats from different sources, we are going to balance them naturally, and it's not going to be a gigantic problem for us. However, if you are not a person who enjoys fish or wild game or algae, you may need to supplement your omega-3s. So again, if you are looking at eating more whole food sources, less processed foods, you are probably going to get the natural balance that you need. But like I said, if you are very adverse to fish, wild game, or marine type food sources, then you will want to look at supplementing an omega-3 with a fish oil or an omega-3, but just make sure that they contain that DHA in them. How much fat do we need? Not a lot, right? We've talked about our portion sizes. We all know that a portion size of our fat intake is going to be a size of our thumb. So that's not very many almonds or nuts. That's not very much peanut butter. That's a very, very small avocado, right? An avocado is probably more like 8 of these or 6 of these. So that's where we're gonna have problems with our fats, is because they are so calorie dense that a little bit goes a long way. Again, that's why they like them on those survival shows. That's why people are looking for them, because it's a lot of calories in a tiny little bit that your body's going to be able to store. That's going to help you have quick energy, and that's why they are so important if you were ever lost in the wilderness. Go fishing. So 1 thumb size is about a tablespoon of fat. And highly active people are going to maybe want some more fat. And you can do that by, what you want to do with that is just add 1 serving, 1 extra thumb to whatever you're normally eating, to make sure that you're not going to overdo the fats again. It's just so easy to overeat the fats. And that's when we start to see the problems with weight gain. That's where we can see the problems with health problems, the heart disease, higher risk of higher cholesterol, blood pressure problems, all those kinds of things. The higher cancer risk come with just having way too many of these, and having them way too many forms of processed foods. So when or also eating out. Eating out's a big one, because you do not know how much oil they're using. You don't know what kind of oil they're using. That's, again, another place where you can really get yourself in some trouble with the fats, unless you're on a survival show. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. Here is a quick healthy fat shopping list that will break down what you need to get, including these supplements, if you choose to supplement with an omega-3 fatty acid. So any questions, please email me, text me, call me, hit me up on my social medias, whatever way you prefer. I will try to get back to you. And that's what we know. So hopefully you can see the connection now between Alone and the healthy fats, and how healthy fats can save your life. Till next time.